I think they were. The world knows that India is really sensitive to this sort of thing being said by foreign leaders when they come to India. Normally, we expect them to say nice, warm, fuzzy things about us. We expect them not to raise subjects that make us uncomfortable. It is a fact that post-2014 and certainly post-2019, India is uncomfortable talking about human rights within India, particularly in dealing with minorities, especially Muslims. And I think that the statement by the UN Secretary General was aimed squarely at the actions of the Modi government. I think that was the right thing to do. I think the world should recognize what has been going on in India in the last few years. For the first time in our history, there is no Muslim minister in our cabinet at the union. For the first time in our history, we've got a full majority in the lower house, the Lok Sabha, what would correspond to the National Assembly in Pakistan, 303 MPs, of whom none is a Muslim. The last Lok Sabha, the BJP had 282 MPs, also a full majority, of whom none was a Muslim. In 15 states out of India's 28 states, there is not a single Muslim minister in the cabinet. Usually in 10 states, there is one Muslim minister who's given the minority affairs a portfolio. So it's just a scrap. So there is political exclusion of Muslims, which is fairly thorough to no particular end other than to show them their place. Also, there's a series of laws through which India has been targeting its Muslims, beginning with such things as citizenship, where, according to the Home Minister, there's a pincer of two laws. One is the Citizenship Amendment Act, which has been passed, which only grants asylum to non-Muslims who came to India before December 31st, 2014. There's no logic to why this is the case. It is not the case that India doesn't say that Pakistan is persecuting its minorities, including apostatized communities, but they have not been included in this list. The people who have fled Tibet, the people who have fled Lanka, including Hindus, have not been included in this list. So it's a fairly targeted action at the Muslim states in our neighborhood and at the Muslims within. Interfaith marriage between Hindus and Muslims have been banned in 7 states in India since 2018. And the couples have to take the permission of the state to be able to marry. The state retains the right to undo the marriage, including marriages that have children. We've had the criminalization of the possession of beef in several states in India. Beef lynching, mostly targeted against Muslims, began in 2015. So basically, India's taken a path in the last few years where it has determined that whatever else it does on the side of the economy and whatever else, it will continue persecution officially of its Muslim community. And I think the world has recognized that to a large extent. And I think we should see the remarks by the Secretary General and the concern of the world based on this, that we are unable in India to be able to put too much internal resistance against what the BJP is doing. And it is a matter of a very grave concern, for not just for us, but for the whole world. I think constitutionally we retain something of value, that the natural trajectory of the country, if you were to look at its constitution, is actually positive. And I see this as being an aberration. It's a long aberration, and I don't think that we will come out of it soon. I think that the infection that has possessed us will remain with us for a few years. But I think generally speaking, the world, all of us, all nations in the world are headed in the right direction, more or less. I feel that the problem in India is that communalism doesn't appear to put off too many people. Secondly, I don't think that the performance of a party which is overtly communal on the non-communal aspects, including economic growth, including unemployment, seem to matter, including even inflation, it seem to matter so long as it pushes a certain negative agenda against minorities. And that is slightly worrying, that there is a democratic legitimacy that the BJP has, and there is an undeniable popularity that the Prime Minister has because of this constant pushing of anti-minorityism. And we will need to be rid of this sentiment before we can move ahead. But I think it will happen in time. I can't think of anything specific, but I think that the world should remain engaged with what is going on in India. Obviously, there are some nations, including Pakistan and China, that India will say have a vested interest in what they're seeing. And that's fine. I'm saying that there are many other friends we have who should look on happenings in India over the last few years with concern and speak to us as openly as the Secretary General has constantly, and remind us that our constitution and our values and our history require us and oblige us to behave in a better way with our minorities, our fellow citizens, than we have in the past.